Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is episode number 99. We've made it a long time. We're talking techno horror. This is Eric Lee, your host, and I am with, as usual,
Mike Campbell.
And live from New Orleans,
Liz Williams.
And this is interesting because there's a lot of ways you can read techno horror. I think that because technology is ever changing.
I thought you were going to say reaching 99 episodes was interesting.
Oh, well, that too. It's how we made it this far is beyond me.
It's a technological wonder.
We're going to have a big episode on our following the 100. Stay tuned. We're going to have a whole bunch of fun guests. We're going to have a special event. Going to run through our best horror movie of all time by way of a tournament, a horror tournament bracket. And we have, if you wanted to do the bracket yourself, you can go on to our website.
You called it the Tournament of Horror Champions.
Tournament of Horror Champions, that's right.
THC.
Where we're going to have to pick from our favorite children and eliminate them until we finally get left with one movie standing. It'll be interesting.
We're eliminating the children.
Yes.
Yep, okay. That's a horror movie.
Kill the children. Kill them all.
Just want to make sure I heard that.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I heard that correctly. We are eliminating the children.
That's right. This is the Sophie's Choice of podcasts coming up. Episode 100. You have to pick one of them. The other one's got to go. The other one's going off in a train to who knows where. It'll be so sad.
So Eric, what defines techno horror? When you guys threw this assignment out at me, I was like, okay, because I mean at one point we did cover sci-fi horror.
Yes.
And so help me understand the distinction between sci-fi horror versus techno horror.
Well, I think not necessarily. Techno horror is mechanical. Or is artificial. I think I tend to think of cybernetics.
Okay.
I think of communications. I think of machines.
Okay.
That these are non-living threats.
Okay. I think I did it right.
I think the difference with like science fiction, you can start introducing aliens,
alien technology,
time travel, or the mad science. Mad science falls a lot into techno horror, though. I think that it definitely crosses over.
Yep.
But
and the common theme is all technology is bad.
Yeah, right.
Just like pretty much.
It is all bad. It is all flawed, and it is all problematic.
Our half-hour setups trying to get this podcast going is an example of how all technology is
bad
horrible.
Technology. Bad technology.
Why can't I get my microphone to work? So, also known as
because it wants to murder you. That's why.
There's a ghost in the machine, and it is not
evil.
wanting us to work.
Yes.
So, yes.
But I think it evolves with eras.
Sure.
Right. What was scary? Relative scary is very, very different as we pass through various ages. And I think I'm going to probably touch on one that is contemporary, which will probably in 20 years may not be so scary.
Right.
So,
right.
As your tech improves, whatever was scary in the 80s, which is where I have called from mostly, is no longer scary. Yeah. And some of it really doesn't even exist anymore. But back then it was the big, bad, scary thing.
Like Lawnmower Man. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, and like technology from the films of the like 20s, 30s, and 40s, the technology was really leaning on chemistry, right? Because that was the technological advance was like how to mind meld these different chemicals together in a nefarious and evil way.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But yeah, then in the 1950s, obviously you had the atomic age, and that was a whole different ball of wax than potions and concoctions.
Yeah, and but I don't know that I think that's mad science, but
sure,
but mad technology might have been more like Metropolis.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Something like that with with an android that's run amok.
Right.
And I think there are some standard bearers. It'll be interesting to see if we hit them, because I think I've picked ones that are pretty notable, but they're not probably the most famous within the trope.
You did not pick any of my films. Guaranteed.
Okay. We'll see. I am hoping that you bring up one that I think you might bring up, because I actually did some additional research just in case you pull that one out of your pocket.
You remember a couple episodes ago, I was like patting myself on the back because when we talked about Australia and New Zealand horror, I was like, well, I only chose 5-star Criterion Collection films.
Are we back to regular Mike Campbell mode?
We're back to regular Mike Campbell mode.
We're going Grindhouse.
Like
DUMB.
I got a little Mike Campbell in my selection.
Yes.
All right.
I like it.
I think I do.
Well, I think Mike, you've piqued my interest. You want to lead off with what your number 3 is?
Kick it off.
I will, and you guys know what this is because I teased this out on the website.
Yes,
this is
do it.
The 1977 American science fiction horror film directed by Donald Cammell called Demon Seed.
Yeah.
This stars Julie Christie and Fritz Weaver. The interesting thing about Julie Christie was when she took this role, she had only done highfalutin 5-star Criterion Collection films prior to that, and all the critics were like, "This is
what are you doing?
So beneath you. This is so beneath you." I honestly had never seen this film, and I was always struck by the poster because the poster is super cool. And I sat down and watched it, and it is a great film. It concerns. It's basically a guy, Fritz Weaver, Dr. Alex Harris. He creates the Proteus 4, this extremely advanced AI program that basically takes over everything. And the artificial intelligence evolves so fast that it sort of takes on a life of its own and is convinced that the best way to ruin man is to not necessarily kill man, but to actually manifest the computer into its own self, perpetuating eternity. And
simply put,
forced impregnation of a woman by a
computer wants a baby.
The computer wants a baby. He wants Proteus Jr. Dr. Harris, the creator of Proteus, he and his wife, they have become recently separated. She lives in the home that they both previously lived in. It's this super duper high tech house. Only one way in, only one way out. Proteus figures out a way to take over because the house is so technologically advanced. Proteus takes over the house and forces Susan he basically the Proteus, which is voiced by and really, really well done by Robert Vaughn.
Creepy, really.
Yeah, super duper creepy. But Proteus forces Susan as his prisoner, but he tries everything. Even though he can, forcibly impregnate her, he uses different forms of persuasion. He threatens a young girl whom Susan was treating as a child psychologist. He reminds Susan of her young daughter, who's now dead. He displays images of distant galaxies. He used electrodes to basically access her memories. But she fights off all of Proteus's advances, and he decided the only way to do it is to force her to have the baby.
AKA machine rape.
Machine rape. Yes. Well, no, not machine rape. He just impregnates her.
Restrains her and forcibly against her will.
Yes.
I don't know how you describe it, but that's machine rape by my book.
It's not a normal 9-month pregnancy. I think it's like a 22-day pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that's Unfortunately, where the film kind of falls apart when Proteus Jr. gets out of the incubator, Proteus Jr. looks rather ridiculous as this sort of weird, kind of stompy looking child monster. And then they discover that it's just this exoskeleton, and they pull apart the skeleton, and it's this also kind of weird looking little boy
with a massive mullet.
I don't know whatever happened to him. But even though Gene Siskel said, and as I indicated earlier, a lot of critics were very dissatisfied with Julie Christie's decision making. Gene Siskel from the Chicago Tribune gave it 1.5 stars out of 4 and said that Julie Christie had no business in junk like Demon Seed. All of that said, the soundtrack to Demon Seed was composed by a guy named Jerry Fielding, who did The Wild Bunch, Straw Dogs, Junior Bonner, The Mechanic, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, The Bad News Bears, Outlaw of Josie Wales, The Enforcer, The Gauntlet, Escape from Alcatraz, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, he did tons and tons of awesome soundtracks, and this was no exception. The soundtrack to it is super duper cool. Lots of great, creepy 1970s In Search of Bloops and Bleeps.
I love the laboratory. The look of the laboratory is really cool looking too.
Yeah, the laboratory looks super cool. A lot of the technology I felt to be pretty believable. I didn't think it was there was never a point where I went, is that really possible?
Yeah. This is the kinds of the technology. It is, you flash forward to now, you know, and the whole interactive home situation is all. That's like,
it's all the rage. Yeah,
it is.
Your computer is watching you.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Roomba, right? And it's like, but this time Roomba wants to rape you.
Right.
It's like,
and have a Roomba baby.
Yes.
Roomba Jr.
So
Roomba Jr. wants eternity.
Yeah, I thought that was all, but I also love the fact that they had these. I need to do a month's worth of programming, and he takes what looks like it ages me a little bit.
Sure.
But it's like a 12-inch floppy disk.
Right.
And it's like,
that thing was like, I was like,
they never made anything that looked like that.
I was like, oh my God, that thing is massive.
And you know, and the brains of Proteus looks like a thermonuclear power plant, right? With cooling rods and the whole thing.
Right.
And now, of course, you know, everything's in the side, and Proteus could probably be in your phone.
Right.
Which I think is something that we will see in future kinds of technological storytelling horror. But this was, I think absolutely 100%. This is pure 70s horror, as if like looking into the future. Right. And this is what happens if future if this is like Black Mirror kind of stuff, right?
It is. And I loved,
from the 70s.
Yes.
From this, one of the things I really like too is how they visualized Proteus, right? Like, so it would project on a screen, and it was this great, like,
Hal. It was Hal.
It was, yeah. I mean, it definitely sort of aped 2001 Space Odyssey, but it was even in some ways more psychedelic than 2001 Space Odyssey. I thought, yeah. So yes, go see if you haven't seen it already. You can.
I have not seen it.
You can, on the list. Yeah, you can check it out. It's available pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it was. I got it on Amazon.
Yeah, I think it's available on Amazon. Yeah, the interesting thing, the director Donald Campbell, that guy did nothing.
Yeah.
He did like every single YouTube video from the 1980s into the early 1990s. And that was it.
No more features.
No more features for him.
This movie actually
U2 Gravy Train.
I bought a book when about 20 years ago, when it was called the 100 Worst Movies of All Time by a guy named Michael Medved.
Oh yeah,
who is now a right-wing nut job.
Right. If you're listening, we don't want you on the podcast.
Yeah, Michael Medved, not so much. But he actually, he put this up with John Wayne's Genghis Khan movie and Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, and it was like Demon Seed. But it's like I read about Demon Seed. It's like, this sounds crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's got Julie Christie in it. Come on, how about?
Well, and speaking of books, though, this is This was written by Dean Koontz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of it. That's part of it.
So it has some
cool 1970s provenance.
Yes.
All right. Let's truck on over to New Orleans, Louisiana with Liz.
Okay. It's been a rough week here in America. So I was going to go with talking about some Black Mirror stuff, but that got so real that I was nostalgic for the olden days.
All right.
And so young listeners, back in the 80s, we had landlines and we also had chat rooms and numbers you could call for like party lines. So this film, the technology, this film is a 1989 film directed by Robert Englund. Yes, that Robert Englund. Oh. And it is 976 Evil.
Yeah, sweet.
Not only does this contain a chat line number that is run really by Satan, they also have some cool pneumatic tubes for two friends to communicate with from the garage to the house. Also the technology.
That is technology.
This is the story of two cousins, Leonard, also known as Spike, and Hoax, who are teenagers who live with Hoax's overly religious mother named Lucy, played by Sandy Dennis, who some people would recognize as Honey from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So the guys discover this chat line card for your horoscopes. And the number to call is 976 Evil. So they call, and it gives you like a little fortune that tells you like today, November 28th of 1989, fortune favors the bold and do this. But oops, it's actually run by Satan to corrupt mortals into doing his bidding. So of course, Hoax, who's a super nerd, discovers the powers of Satan and can finally stick up for himself with the bullies who his cousin Spike has been protecting himself. But he takes it a little too far, summoning the devil to be able to defend himself. And of course, mayhem ensues. So this is not a great movie, but boy, is it fun. And it is funny to... like, what's this? A chat line? What do you do? Just call the number?
What the hell? I'm bored.
It was exactly. It was a piece of nostalgia that is worth watching just for its complete silliness. Yeah. It has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. And so, Liz, did you see the second one, 976 Evil 2?
No, I did not. I quit at 976 Evil. I did not see the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Better? Worse?
I haven't seen it. It came out 2 years later because technology had not evolved too much.
No. Not that much.
Yeah, but we'll have to get back to you on.
But of course, with the
976
calls would also cost you like $1.50 or something like that. So,
at least.
So not only does it summon the devil and curse you, but it also takes $1.50 out of your pockets.
Satan's making money.
And, he's coming through the phone lines. He's coming through your landline. He's coming through your payphones. He's also coming through your car-mounted cell phone, like back in the day when we had the beginnings of a cell phone. Right. It was mounted to your car.
And it was the size of a brick.
Giant. Yeah, it was the size of a brick. So that's the opening scene shows someone with one of those phones. So like, a simpler time. That's what I was longing for. A simpler time when all you had to worry about was the devil trying to get you through a chat line.
Does Robert Englund...
Back to those days.
Does Robert
Englund...
Does he show up in the film at all?
No.
He doesn't? Okay.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
Does Robert Englund have any other directing credits?
What's that?
Does he have any other directing credits?
That's a good question.
Boy.
I don't think so.
I want to say he does.
Let's see. Maybe.
I want to say he does, but I...
Oh, yes. 976 Evil and Killer Pad, a movie called Killer Pad.
Yeah.
In 2008, a horror comedy. And that's about it.
From the producers of Dude, Where's My Car?
How could you miss?
Yeah, as if kids didn't have enough to worry about with heavy metal in the late 1980s. Now you got to worry about your landline.
Yep, you do.
Satan is just everywhere.
So I am also going to go to the 1980s. And this is for the king of what I think of as techno horror.
Okay.
This is David Cronenberg's 1983 magnum opus, Videodrome.
All right.
And
okay, get us out of the gutter.
Yeah, this is kind of sloshing around in a pretty classy gutter.
Well, that's true.
It is. I think this one also,
subject matter is super dark.
It is really it's a trippy movie, and like Demon Seed, this was too much for a lot of people. This is James Woods plays a movie producer.
Speaking of right-wing lunatics.
Sorry. Max Wren, who is a sort of a UHF pornographer of sorts, who is trying to make his channel stand out from all the rest of the Toronto clutter by being more bold, more out there, trying to get the craziest things you can possibly put on television and push the censors, and he's looking for the next big thing. His buddy in the production studio goes, "Hey, I found this thing. It's kind of coming in only in couple minute segments, and it's an S&M piece where there's a woman who's essentially chained to a wall and getting flogged,
right?
And it's sort of this kinky S&M thing, but then it cuts out after 30 seconds, and he goes, "Hey, can you get any more of this?
Right.
This is great." It's like, "What's the plot?" It's like, there is no plot. This is they just go on like this. And it's like,
have you not seen a snuff film? Come on.
And he goes, "Well, do you know who the producer? Who are the actors?" It's like, we don't even know anything about these folks,
right?
And so Max Wren is fascinated with this, and he goes on to a talk show where he is interviewed along with Nikki Brand, played by pop star Debbie Harry.
That's right, yeah.
Who is she's sort of a chanteuse.
I know, people forget how much stuff she did in the 1980s, like film wise.
Right. She was,
it wasn't all Rapture.
No.
She did a lot of other stuff.
And, she was she was pretty good in this. I mean, you wouldn't, if you were, say, someone who's like 17 years old now, actually, if you're 17 year old now, you probably don't want to be watching Videodrome, but you wouldn't recognize Debbie Harry if you didn't say it, and she would just look like a pretty young actress.
Right.
But she is, at the time, was one of the biggest music stars in the world. But she's big into the S&M. And they do, as guests on this show, they're sort of making friendly chatter, or actually James Woods is being kind of sleazy chatter,
right?
And he picks up on her, and he gets a little bit more than he bargained for. She comes over, and he goes, and you want to watch this? You think this will be kind of crazy? And they watch a couple episodes of Videodrome, and she gets really turned on, and she wants to and then they have a session of piercing and pain and sex and in all the while this Videodrome thing's playing in the background in this.
And it's not in 4K. This is all on
cathode
ray.
These are old. These are televisions inside of wooden boxes still, right?
Wait, what?
So this is they eventually, some strange stuff happens because he starts hallucinating. And there are moments where he comes home and Nikki Brand is on the television and saying, "Love me." And he's looking at her, and then the television starts growing veins and bulging and rippling and just very unsettling kind of stuff. And then it starts growing out, and then he starts coming up to kiss the television, and he jams his head into the television.
That's right, which is
that's
the poster.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. And it's this really super kinky, weird sex with a television kind of a moment, and you're going, "What am I watching?" And then it turns out that, there's something sinister going on in the background. Clearly, Videodrome is more than it seems. It is more than, and he sends out one of his best friends to go look up who the
cable
the
company.
producer. Yeah, right. And she goes, "Don't do it, Max."
Right.
Max, this is if you do this, it's a deep dark hole. It's snuff. It's filled with death and pain.
Right.
And he goes, "I want to know more. This is just too good." Because but there's this guy that I'm going to rewind just a little bit. There's a man named Brian Oblivion who was this talking head who was also on the talk show with both of them. And apparently he's behind some of this. He goes to check. She goes, "You're going to have to talk to Brian Oblivion." And apparently he only exists now in a videotape existence. And he consults with her daughter who has the archives of all of his tapes. He brings a bunch of these tapes home.
Was it beta or VHS?
It looked like it was VHS. But he would
want to make sure.
But it was a weird VHS because he'd pick up the VHS and it would just all of a sudden it would pulse. It would just like turn fleshy. It was, another one of those things where you go, ugh, and
that's David,
it's very
that's David Cronenberg.
Yeah, very difficult. He starts growing weird vaginal orifices in his body where he jams things inside of his body, jams the videotape inside of his body to channel
David
the tape.
Cronenberg, yes.
Body horror extreme.
Yeah.
And I think trying to explain the movie is probably it's. I think you have to actually experience the movie to get it.
Right. It's like trying to explain Naked Lunch.
Yes, or eXistenz,
Right.
or these are. These are
the what?
It's like his hand. It's a gun. It's a handgun. It blends together. It turns into a machine, and then that he's got some great. There are some all-time classic lines because eventually once he figures out that there's a conspiracy going on, there's some guys who invite him to say, "Okay, we're going to unveil the secrets to you. Put on this headset, this virtual headset thing," which nowadays it's like it was. We've seen VR headsets, and it's funny actually. Back down in 1983, it kind of looks like the big funny looking virtual headsets,
right?
Except for he kind of transports himself and he becomes part of a torture snuff thing, and it just goes weird. And the guy goes, "Let's open those neural floodgates," and it does. And it makes him go crazy. And the guy goes, "You'll forgive me if I don't stick around and watch. I can't cope with all the freaky stuff." And at that point, I was like, "Huh."
Yeah. I think the thing that's interesting about David Cronenberg is like almost everything he did in the 1980s was techno horror because he did like.
Stay tuned.
He did Scanners. He did The Dead Zone. He did The Fly. I mean, he was like deep into that stuff, and even Dead Ringers, while sort of about gynecology largely.
Yeah.
They still had a technological, or at least
absolutely
a medicine element to it.
He did kind of. He's gone away from that in the late 90s and onwards.
Right.
He's gone more. He's more conventional. I kind of wish he'd go back to some of the trippy stuff he did in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
The best. I think some people may be familiar with the closing lines, which is "Death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh," and it was. It is. It's like it's revolution by television. They're going to try and take over the airwaves by making people turn into weird, fleshy, mechanical objects.
Go see Videodrome.
Videodrome.
All right. I'm going to stay in the 1980s.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to stay in the 1980s with a film that was originally released as Robots, then Killbots. Then it was released because Robots didn't really resonate with the public, nor did Killbots, but then it came out as Chopping Mall.
Yep.
From 1986 science fiction comedy horror directed by Jim Wynorski. And like, if you do you know Jim Wynorski at all?
Nope.
Like, look up this guy's directorial credits. It is insane. He directed The Bear Wench Project 2, Scared Topless, The Bear Wench Project 3, Nymphs of Mystery Mountain. I'm not making this up. The Bear Wench Project Uncensored, The Hills Have Thighs.
I love this guy.
He did Piranaconda. He did Sexipede. There's a sexy version of
Human Centipede.
Human Centipede. He did Shark Babes. He did Shark and Saw, Women's Prison Massacre, and he did Scared Topless and Cobra Gator. That's not even like scratching the surface of what this guy did, but
pure class.
I like it.
This is one of Barbara Crampton's first films. This also stars Paul Bartel, who's great. It also stars Mary Warnoff, who's also wonderful. The film is about the Park Plaza Mall, who's installed three state-of-the-art security robots who turn rogue and kill teenagers inside who have decided to have a party in a furniture store after hours. They begin to have sex and drink at the party inside the furniture store. And of course, the killer robots are having none of it. The way that the killer robots go crazy is that apparently a lightning strike hits the building, infiltrates the computer system that controls the killer robots, the security robots, and the lightning strike in and of itself was enough to somehow scramble the coding on the killer robots, and voila, you've got killer robots.
Nice.
This was directed by Julie.
80s firewall.
I know, yes. 80s firewall.
All you need is a lightning strike.
All you need is a lightning strike. This was produced by Julie Corman, wife of Roger Corman, and I didn't know a lot about her either, and I went and did a little bit of research. She, of course, did Night Call Nurses. She did The Student Teachers, The Young Nurses, Summer School Teachers, The Candy Stripe Nurses. Like, she did all these
thing for nurses.
Yeah, she did all these films in the early 1970s that were either nurses or teachers. But she was like totally into. I mean, she was definitely cut from, and she was married. You know, she's still married to Roger Corman. Oh. Definitely cut from the same jib as Roger Corman. And the other thing was that Dick Miller was in the film too.
Oh yeah, well Dick Miller's in everything.
I know, but it was amazing.
Yeah, he's a janitor, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
He plays a janitor who gets it pretty quick because as
Dick Miller usually
he usually gets it pretty quick. In this case, he gets it because he was trying to wrestle with the robots, and the robots were having none of his sass. The film also stars Rodney Eastman, who later went on to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. So this, if you are looking for the quintessential sort of 1980s film, this hits all of the beats. It's got all of it, from the fashion to the music to the mall. It is chock full of 1980s goodness. I was a little leery going into Chopping Mall, a.k.a. robots, a.k.a. killbots. But when I got done on the back end of it, I was super satisfied.
One of my favorite movie posters of all time, too.
And it's such a great movie.
But it doesn't tell you anything that there's going to be killer robots in there. No. It's a bag full of hands and eyeballs.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And the killer robots are actually okay. For 1980s, from the 1980s,
yeah,
they're better than Daleks.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, yeah, they're sort of more threatening than a vacuum cleaner. It's kind of like a vacuum cleaner and a table saw had a baby,
right?
So,
all right, Liz, what do you got?
Good choice. Okay, I'm taking us into the early 90s here, increasing my Rotten Tomatoes score by a bit because this one has a 20.
Yeah, we're bringing you the good stuff this week, folks.
Yeah, I'm bringing you the good stuff. This is 1994's John Flynn directed picture, Brain Scan.
Oh,
so this is Edward Furlong, plays teen, right. Like an emo teen in the 90s, named Michael. His mother was killed in a car accident. He lives at home with his dad, who's always traveling. So it's just him and his best buddy, Kyle, and they're super into heavy metal, read Rob Zombie, and horror movies. And they have a horror movie club at their school, and their teacher's like, "You're just showing stuff with nothing but death. I don't understand. Your club is disbanded." So their club's shut down. They're bummed out. They're flipping through the pages of Fangoria magazine.
Good.
And they see, really Fangoria magazine, and they see an ad for this new virtual reality, back then, virtual reality game called Brain Scan. It comes to you on DVD-ROMs for you to play.
So slow load times, folks.
Yeah. So, of course, Michael orders them and puts the game in, and this creepy voice comes on and says, "Okay, you have 1 hour to play this game, and you're going to be in the mind of a killer." So he thinks it's a point of view where he's doing a killing or following a killer, but then the next day there's really been a murder. So he's like, "What the hell has happened?" So he doesn't want to play the game anymore, but the game has other plans. And out from the screen pops this ridiculous character played by an actor named T. Ryder Smith, and his name is just the Trickster.
Yes.
He is really creepy. He loves dancing around the room to Primus. That was who he chose. He brought his own music.
Liz, I was going to say, I think Trickster was also a band at the time.
So
I think Trickster is a band, but I think that band was with an X. This is just
Oh, okay.
Trickster.
This is just Trickster.
These are important things to clarify.
Yep. So Trickster does not want to let Michael go, and trouble ensues as he continues to play the discs of the game, fighting to keep his friends safe. And this movie, you're like, wait, it ended? I feel like there's 30 more minutes, because it's one of those movies that has like a false ending, and then the ending will kind of let you down. But it's not good. But boy, is this one nostalgic for the 90s. So if Chopping Mall gave you like everything you wanted in the 80s, this is everything you wanted to forget about from the 90s, from the clothes to the music to the
grunge.
DVD, CD-ROMs, and all that.
So 90s.
I love grunge.
So much grunge. His friend Kyle wears like jeans with a flannel around his waist, a flannel shirt over his T-shirt, and then his leather jacket, with his studs. It's 100% 90s. But in these crazy times, sometimes you don't want to think. So this one is not a thinker. It will meet that criteria, and it's so ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, Brain Scan.
Your technology here is your DVD-ROMs.
If you can even find, you're not going to be able to play that anymore.
I don't think you can't play those anymore. All right, Eric.
So
number 2.
I'm jumping up to something fairly recent, and this is the 2018 Lee Wanell film Upgrade, which I saw at the Overlook Film Festival.
Yes.
And this thing is this is a bit of rock and roll for your horror movies. It is absolutely manic paced. It falls on the line of action, sci-fi action and horror, but it is a really well told, well paced story.
Mm-hmm.
And it involves a man named Gray Trace, which is a little bit on the nose. He's an auto mechanic who's an adherent to the old school technology of gas-powered cars.
Oh.
And after consulting with a young tech tycoon who's interested in these antiques that like Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that, Gray and his wife start traveling home by way of an automated car, right? And this is we're hearing about the oncoming things of robot cars,
self-driving
Uber cars, essentially.
Yep.
And but the car has a malfunction and takes them into a very bad neighborhood in, I think it's Melbourne.
It's an Australian film. Oh, right, because Lee won.
No. And but this is Logan Marshall Green is Gray Trace, so it's an American actor who was in the Karen Kusama movie.
The Invitation.
The Invitation.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's that guy.
Kind of like Tom Hardy.
He's very Tom Hardy like, and
discount Tom Hardy.
He is. He's outstanding in this, and I'll get into it in a little bit as to why. But the car goes off route, and they get jumped by a bunch of bandits, or just a violent gang of criminals. They kill his wife and they shoot him in the back, leaving him a quadriplegic, and rob him, and they take off.
It's like Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. Yeah. That's basically the story of the Paul Schrader film Rolling Thunder. Yeah.
Well, I've not seen Rolling Thunder.
That was directed by the guy who directed Brain Scan.
What? Really?
No.
Yeah.
Not possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
John Quinn, yeah. American film director. He's a screenwriter. Excuse me. Okay. He was the screenwiter.
So meta there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, we planned this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So he's recovering at home with the help of his mother. Naturally, he's depressed because he's confined to a motorized wheelchair. He can't move his arms and legs, and he's incapable of much activity. And his wife has been murdered, and that's just been, he's being pretty down about it. But the tycoon that he met with when he was before he left his house comes to him with a proposal. He's sort of a brilliant, sort of Gatesian techno wizard, and he says, "I have a microchip that could change your life. This thing will put it into your spine, and it will make you. It'll make you it'll give you an upgrade. It'll recharge your nervous system, and the side effect is that." He's not in full, his brain isn't in full control of his body, but his brain communicates with his chip, and then they work together to make him function. And he said, but the thing is, this is really top secret. We haven't released this. This is beta. So you can't tell anybody about this. And of course he agrees to this. Bad choice. And initially
always read the fine print.
Yeah, it was he becomes this like super warrior ninja, but he's not because what he does is he puts the chip in, and by day he goes around and pretends that he's still paralyzed,
right?
Going around in his chair, so as not to draw any suspicion. But in fact, what he is, he's out for revenge for the men who killed him.
Right.
He's been getting information from the cop who's on his case, trying to figure out who shot him and killed his wife, and he's gleaned enough information to track down some of these bad guys. And
so does the horror come as a result of the revenge element?
Partly.
Okay.
I mean, partly because the action is hyper violent.
Sure.
Like
hyper violent.
The first interaction he has, and you can see it in the trailer, is he snuck into a guy's house to try and look for clues. And the chip named STEM says, it's like, do you want me to kick in the enhanced features? If you do, say yes. And then and it's like, or we are not likely to be able to fight off this violent criminal.
Press 1 for yes.
Yes. And he goes, yes, do it. And then there's this scene that looks like straight out of like Three Stooges meets Friday the 13th, where the machine takes over his body and starts just going to town on one of the bad guys. Yeah. And it's a knife fight, and it is, and there's like bone snapping, just really, really, really crunchy, super violent fisticuffs. And Logan Marshall Green is going, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Oh, I didn't. Oh, meanwhile, his body is just tearing this other dude apart. And then he realizes, then he slinks out of the house, gets the stuff that he needs. Meanwhile, this mangled corpse of the guy who he's gotten revenge upon, he's still trying to figure out who's in charge of these gangsters. He doesn't know, no idea why.
Sure.
It seemed completely random.
Right.
And he's slowly puzzling this stuff together, but he has to go person by person to try and find more information out. But the cops are completely, they have no idea what's going on because they see images of him tootling around in his wheelchair.
Right.
In front, there's a security camera sees him in a wheelchair approaching the house and then leaving the house.
Right.
But there's no way that he could have done this because he's a quadriplegic.
Right.
Eventually, so the horror starts coming in.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden he realizes that the chip has ulterior motives.
It's Proteus.
And he's wanting to use his body.
Yep.
But there's a moment where he says, in order to, it's like, you have to surrender completely to me in order to get yourself off the ground, while these guys with shotguns built into their arms, where they'd click their wrist and they have these shotguns that would project out of their wrists. Pretty cool.
Just as long as he doesn't try to impregnate him, though.
Yeah, no, there's no robot rape in this in this movie, but he's kind of mind raped in a way. He's just that all of a sudden this guy, he's he surrenders himself to the chip, and all of a sudden this is not what he had bargained for.
Right.
And the sinister plot of what's going on becomes oh my God, it's saving my life and I can get my revenge, to oh my God, this is not, no. and
so it's kind of a Faustian bargain.
Yeah, it is very much very much a Faustian bargain. And the movie, I think the closest, I would say this feels like what RoboCop, the RoboCop reboot should have been.
Okay.
Everybody loves the Paul Verhoeven original RoboCop because it was it was super violent, and it was witty, and it was clever, and it outplayed its budget. It was a small budget movie that played above its weight class. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Upgrade. Lee Whannell managed to get a really snappy script, a great performance from Logan Marshall Green, brilliant visual effects for a small budget, and it made it look like, or maybe like the Terminator would be another good one to compare it to, because these are small budget movies that had big budget looks and big budget quality performances. Because it was a Blumhouse, I think it was a Blumhouse movie, because it's Lee Whannell, James Wan, under the radar a bit, but cult hit, kind of like it's going to fall into the same event. In 20 years, people are going to remember it like Road Warrior.
Sure.
And it's the sinister in horror.
Let's check back in 20 years.
But more action than horror.
Let's check back. Yeah, in 20 years. All right.
Back to you.
So John Flynn was the director of Rolling Thunder. So
that's crazy. That is crazy.
That is crazy.
Sorry. Yeah, we're not talking about Upgrade anymore. We're going back to Rolling Thunder.
Nope. Which
is kind of a horrifying film, and it is a revenge film too. So I guess it all ties together. It all ties.
Yeah.
Together.
So there's a link. So it's like Lee Whannell, we caught you.
Yeah. Yep.
Lee Whannell. All right. I am going a little bit out of my, not necessarily my comfort zone, but a little bit out of the norm to a film from 2004. This is a Thai film.
Oh.
Called Shudder. This is a supernatural horror film directed by Banjong Pisathanakhan.
Good luck.
and Park Poon Wong Poom.
Close.
Yes,
sure.
I'm trying.
Sorry,
I'm trying.
I'll give it to you.
I'm trying not to butcher the names. This was, it was a huge box office success in Thailand. In fact, it when it opened, it was the number one film in the country, and it became one of the highest grossing films in 2004. It was, of course, re-released as an English language film in 2008, and then it was also remade in Tamil as the film Sivi, and it was remade in Hindi as a film called Click. And the reason was, and Click, the connection to the term Click is that it involves a photographer and his girlfriend who are at a wedding, and they're celebrating and drinking a lot. They get into a car and they hit a woman. That woman comes out of the middle of nowhere. They hit her and they kill her, but they decide to drive away and leave her
hit and run.
Leave her laying in the road. Shortly thereafter, Tun, who's the main character, the photographer, he begins to see all these mysterious like white shadows that appear in his photographs, and he can't. So he's not shooting digital. He's shooting film. So that's the technological piece. He's shooting actual, he's technological and or mechanical. He is shooting film, and he starts to see the images, and the images start to become more and more clear, and they're convinced the images have some sort of link to, and or it might indeed be the girl that they hit on the road. There are some super duper legitimate scares to this film. I mean, really, really legitimate scares. There are some super hokey kind of jump scares involving multiple darkroom kind of jump scares. But it is a really good film. And I was kind of surprised. I stayed away from the English version, the 2008 version, because it just looked stupid. But I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I hadn't previously seen this one, because it really is an interesting film. And of course, like a lot of Asian films, as we talked about some time ago when we were talking about J-horror and K-horror and whatnot, a lot of them do take on kind of a melancholy kind of tone, and there's usually like a heavy-duty subtext to it. There's a murder, which is, the ghost is the manifestation of the murder. There's a rape, the ghost is the manifestation of the rape. And in this case, it's a young girl. I'm not going to totally spoil it, but it's a young girl who's being bullied by Tun and his college buddies while he was in college, unbeknownst to him. And so the bullying manifests the ghost. The cool thing about the director, so I went and looked at Banjong. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name again, but
do it. Come on.
He has stayed in the game. He did a film called Phobia 2, and he also did the NN segment in ABCs of Death in 2012, and he did a really cool film. Try not to laugh at the name. It's PMOK, PEE Mock. It's a 2013 Thai comedy horror romance film that actually I watched the trailer for it. It looks pretty darn
right
good.
On.
So yeah, he has stuck with the game, which is really cool, and he continues to do lots of good horror. It is Shudder is a legitimately scary film, and
is Shudder on Shudder?
Shudder. I don't remember.
I have a DVD of that film.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw it.
I think we can chalk this up
where
to.
I saw it.
It's taken us 99 episodes, and we've gotten our first Thai horror movie.
I know. Yeah, I don't
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've done Indonesian.
I know.
We've done plenty of Korean and Japanese. We've done a couple of Chinese.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is our first. This is our first from Thailand.
I know. All right, Liz, what do you got next for your number one technological horror film?
My number one is the movie that I think of when I hear the techno horror, and it is David Cronenberg's 1986 movie, The Fly.
Yeah.
Yay. A 92 on Rotten Tomatoes. So
yes, this is we classed it up significantly.
Yeah.
Working your way up.
It up. Yep. So I think most people know The Fly. This is Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Jeff Goldblum plays a scientist named Seth Brundle who is working on a teleportation device, and he meets Gina Davis, who's a journalist, and brings her back to his place to show him his experiments. And, of course, they fall in love, because off screen they were also in love at the time of this movie. And she, through their passionate lovemaking, gives him a good idea of how to improve his teleportation devices. So he puts in, of course, he has a monkey that he puts in, and
poor monkey.
Successfully, the first monkey, didn't work out. But the second monkey, after he tweaks the machine, teleports from one pod to the other wonderfully. So instead of waiting what could be weeks for tests to come back on the monkey to make sure he's okay. In a fit of kind of jealous rage when Gina Davis was out one night, Jeff Goldblum's just drinking, throwing him back, talking to the monkey and saying like, well, you're fine. You're perfectly fine. I should probably just test this on myself. So gets into his teleportation device, but doesn't realize that a fly has entered the pod with him. Teleports. He thinks everything's right. In fact, he thinks everything is so good because he has like superhuman powers, and that was just a side effect of teleporting. Nope, it wasn't. And as his body begins to decay and crumble and pus and ooze and turn fly-like, transform, he gives himself his nickname of the Brundle Fly. And
all-star performance.
Cronenberg all-star body horror ensues in this one. Yeah. David Cronenberg also makes an appearance as the gynecologist in Gina Davis's like dream sequence that she's pregnant with. The Brundle
gives birth to a maggot.
Right.
Yes.
That's right.
This was I think Chris Wallace got an Oscar for the special effects.
Did he?
For the makeup. Yeah, the makeup did win an Oscar.
A Portland fella.
Yep, Chris Wallace and Stephen Dupuis won for Best Makeup. And they were also nominated for a BAFTA for Best Makeup for that, too.
Jeff Goldblum should have been nominated for Best Actor in this one. I thought he was so good in this.
He was so good.
The fact that he could, that the emotional, his twitchy kind of, but you could still see his humanity behind all that grotesque makeup.
He's even trying to like have a sense of humor almost about what happened at the beginning, and then he really like starts to morph and can't keep it up anymore. But you can still see his humanity the whole way through. That's what's so.
I think it's still one of his best performances of all. It's definitely one of his best performances.
And
sure.
Gina Davis became a star with this movie.
Yep.
Be afraid. Don't be very afraid.
Yep.
It holds up. I watched it again today, prepping, and it holds up. And really, while it is set in the 80s and you can see from some of the clothes and, his apartment and things that it is alive and well in the 80s, it still has a timeless vibe to it. And
Liz, I know
easily watchable.
I know this isn't your jam, but have you seen the 1950s The Fly?
I have not.
It is.
Original.
It's actually really good, it is shockingly gruesome. Really shockingly,
particularly for a 1950s movie,
and particularly the opening scene.
Yeah, it involves a printing press,
and a beheading.
Yeah. Yes, with the printing press,
like right out the gate, Yeah,
I will have to watch it because I really like this movie, and I'm not a huge Cronenberg fan because I don't like body horror. This is one that I can handle.
All right,
maybe because it's, I don't know, not like human body. It's turning into something else, and it's not just like doing things.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, what is
The Fly?
What is the best?
Well,
techno horror film.
I think I'm not going to say it's the best because
what is your favorite?
No, I'm not going to say it's even my. I'm bringing up a movie that I wanted.
This film sucks.
Well, I want to talk about
for number one. Yeah.
This is. I think actually as a where are we now moment kind of a movie.
Right.
It's a franchise horror movie that I'm not, this is not my kind of a thing, but I think I wanted to sort of to shoot it around.
I'm sensing a lot of shame here.
Yes, it's 2014's Unfriended.
You shouldn't feel shame. It's a solid film.
It's not my
shame.
This is this is a 2014 movie directed by Leo Gabriadze, I believe. And it stars a bunch of attractive young actors who haven't really done anything since, like Shelley Henning, who plays our primary protagonist, Blair. Moses Storm is Mitch, her boyfriend, who she is planning to get it on with at the beginning of the movie because they are doing hot, flirty Skype opening the movie, where they're just there's they're sort of in their undies and they're talking about, so prom night. I think that's when we're going to do it.
It's always prom night.
And it's like, okay, you dirty kids. And they, and they're just getting in the process of, she's unbuttoning her shirt, and all of a sudden, bingo, Skype chat session kicks in, and 3 of their good buddies sort of jump on board, and they go, "Hey, Mitch has got a boner," that kind of thing. It's like,
right,
okay, yeah, really. Right. So it's goofy teenage hijinks, starting out with on Skype and Facebook and all of our social media platforms of the moment, where. But there's also a mystery guest who shows up. There's a symbol, as if like the Zoom session that I'm having now with you guys.
Yeah.
That if there was like somebody else who we didn't invite on the call.
Yeah.
And this also happens to be coinciding with the death of one of their friends, who Laura, who committed suicide, Laura Barnes. And it turns out that they were sort of complicit with bullying her and framing her for her suicide.
And she's showing up on the Skype chat.
Well, it's not clear. They think it's a dude.
Yep.
They go, "Hey man, back off. Get off of our chat. This is a private chat session." And so there's also the interlopers are Ken, who is the chubby tech nerd funny guy.
Right.
Of course. Jess, who is a pretty blonde girl. Mitch's best friend, who's this handsome jock named Adam, who is, of course, he's the one who goes, Mitch has got a boner.
Right.
Which was the big joke for the whole movie.
Of course, yeah.
And then there's another pretty girl named Val.
Is that really the line?
Mitch
has got a boner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And...
All right. Nothing but the best for Eric's number one.
All right.
That's right.
Shame.
Pure class.
Shame.
So yeah, and actually, this is a movie about guilt and shame and bullying and trolling and stalkers and a lot of kinds of things about. I think if this is a movie of this generation, bullying,
right,
and the effects of bullying, because indeed Laura has come back to haunt them and starts playing these wicked games, like would you rather type games, and hold up your hand, and if you've ever done this, hold your hand up, and then close your hand, drop a finger if you've done this, and she brings out all the dirty secrets that all the kids know. And I think one of the things that and of course they get, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did this. This is so horrible what you did to me." And but of course they know that if something happens, that the loser dies, right?
Right.
Right. And
but how do they die?
Oh, it's usually like there's like their bodies convulse and they throw themselves onto, like, they jam knives into their heads and stuff like that.
Oh, so they're possessed by the Skype chat.
Yeah, the Skype. There's a ghost in the machine comes at and possesses them, and they keep on going. They've made many attempts. They've tried to disconnect and
to unfriend.
Unfriend. Yeah, it's like and it's like, "Oh my God, it's Laura. Unfriend her." It's like, "I can't. You won't let me. The unfriend button is gone, or back up. There's no backup button. That kind of stuff."
It's the most first world horror film of all time.
It is. It is
no, it's not. It's not that bad. The second one is not good, but
wait, there's two?
Yeah, no. The second one actually debuted.
Dark Web.
Yeah, Dark Web debuted at Overlook.
Oh my God.
But Unfriended, I will say it is very, very effective of building up tension.
Right.
And it is, that this is sort of killing by numbers, and so you're guessing. It's like, well, Ken the chubby guy's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
We've got too many pretty girls; they're not all going to make it. And how the clever thing is how it interties the story of bullying and revenge and guilt and shame amongst this group, and to that it is very, very effective.
Okay.
And I think it's not. I think if I was a 16-year-old kid, this would be like my favorite horror movie, because it would speak to me.
Right.
As a 50-year-old guy, I mean, if someone hopped onto our Skype session or our Zoom session right now, it's like, hey, enjoy the ride. You're welcome to Scariest Things, right?
Yeah.
But there are certain things where you kind of your inability to get rid of something that's on your technology,
right?
That your technology has taken over, and it also tells you the extent to which at least these teens are completely and utterly absorbed by their technology. It's like the amount of times where I kept on thinking, just turn the power off,
right?
And just, but it is haunted, right?
Yeah,
and so, eventually they sort of come to the same kind of decisions where there's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, everybody power down.
Yeah.
And then they do it and then it's like, okay, let's turn it back up. Oh my God, it's still there.
Yeah.
And then when they realize it's not a guy and then it's Laura and then they go, I'm so sorry. It's too late.
All right.
So fascinating stuff. Unfriended.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I think it is very telling of horror at this moment, and I think this is one of those ones where 20 years from now, do we look back on it and see 976 evil?
Probably.
I think this one took it more seriously. It does. It borrows heavily on the Blumhouse house move, which is subsonic rumble when the ghost is about to do something. You start hearing that. It's like, hey, that's Paranormal Activity's thing. But it is it's kind of branded.
Unfriended, you are the 976 evil of 2018.
Right. So anyways,
all right,
that's it.
Let's recap real quick. Liz, what were your top 3 techno horror films?
Coming in at number 3, I had 1989's Robert Englund directed 976 Evil.
Yeah.
Number 2, 1994 Brain Scan, directed by John Flynn. And number 1, David Cronenberg's 1986 tech horror classic, The Fly.
Probably the best of the group.
Yeah.
I think so.
I picked the 1977 film Demon Seed, the 1986 film Killbots, Robots, Chopping Mall, and the 2004 Thai film Shudder. Eric.
I had another of Cronenberg's great movies, Videodrome from 1983. I have the 2018 Leigh Whannell action horror flick, Upgrade, and the 2014 teen Facebook horror movie, Unfriended.
All right. Let's get on into some quick grave digging.
All right.
I have a very quick bit of news, grave digging wise.
Yeah.
And it's good news.
Yeah.
And it's also
we'll take it.
It's also bad news.
Oh.
It's good news. It's good news, bad news. This is the first ever grave digging. Good news, bad news. The good news is Blumhouse said Halloween Kills, the trailer, is coming out very, very soon.
All right.
Like within weeks.
Okay.
Bad news is because of the global pandemic we're in the middle of right now, they don't know that, according to director David Gordon Green, they are strategizing their plan for the release based on the realities of the world, which means it might get pushed to 2021 because they don't want to put out...
They want to do it in the Halloween season.
Yeah, they don't want to put Halloween out in February. And so they might just wait till 2021, which means Halloween Ends, which was supposed to come out in 2021.
Is going to go to 2022.
Is potentially going to go to 2022. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But...
to get a trailer and have to wait a year for it, man. That's rough.
I know. But at the very least, there should be a trailer coming soon, which will be cool because the last film, the 2018 Halloween, was awesome. All right. What do you got, Eric?
Well, I wanted to just do a quick recap of a bunch of stuff that we've had posted on the site. Chattanooga Film Festival just finished up, and
you went hog wild.
I still got 4 more films that I got to post about Chattanooga.
No pun intended. Hog wild.
Hog wild. This is the new way that I think a lot of the film festivals are going to go. Chattanooga pulled it off really, really well. They streamed, I think there were 15 feature films, maybe 15 short films that went with it, and they had a bunch of workshops and whatnot. but they had given what the conditions were, a fantastic slate of films. I think my favorite movie, I actually haven't gotten it posted yet, and actually it plays into our techno stuff. Is a film called Jumbo.
Jumbo,
which is it's a dark fantasy. It's not really a horror movie.
Okay,
it's about a young Belgian teenager who falls romantically in love with an amusement ride, and it is
okay.
It was gloriously weird.
All right.
And she was really into it, and the machine apparently is into it, and it's kind of you have to see it to believe it, but it falls right in the category. You do a triple feature, you do this, you do Raw, and you do Blew My Mind, and you have 3 European movies that do a superior job of doing girl coming of age.
Oh, right.
Movies.
Right. Yep.
And she's clearly insane.
Yep.
But it's cool. One that I think that most of our listening audience would really groove to is a movie called Skull, the Mask, which was a Brazilian movie about a mask that possesses is like an ancient Incan death mask that latches onto some guy, and he just goes roughhouse over the slums of Sao Paulo and starts butchering people.
Right.
It is really fun. How
many films? So how many films were there at the Chattanooga?
I think like 15.
Okay,
I saw a movie
like
called
15 feature-length films.
Feature-length films.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've watched 10?
Yeah, 9.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay.
I think I liked the movie. There was a movie called The Wave, which is this young Justin Long, yeah. So who we know as the kid from Jeepers Creepers,
right?
Now a middle-aged guy, and he's going through middle-aged life, going on a hallucinogenic trip, and crime drama.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. Stay tuned. Take a look at scariestthings.com.
Yes.
Because I'm going to continue to roll out Chattanooga Film Festival stuff. I'd like to thank the Chattanooga folks for actually letting us in on this stuff.
Heck yeah.
Portland Horror Film Festival, by the way, folks.
Coming up.
They're going to do the same thing.
They're going to be streaming. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What is it?
June, they're going to do it in June.
Yep.
I think 17th to 21st.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think the big one to watch for upcoming Portland Horror Film Festival is a movie called Making Monsters, which is
it's great.
Which is a really good movie. And Liz, you got to do some of the screeners for this stuff, right?
I did. There's going to be some really good stuff coming out, but that one, Making Monsters, I really, really liked. So I'm excited to be able to share that with other people.
All right. Liz, take us out with any other grave digging. And you said you have a special tagline as well.
I got a tagline, no grave digging. This is the tagline from Brain Scan. It's interactive. It's state of the art. It's not just a game. It's murder.
Yeah.
Not state of the art anymore, guys. Put those DV-ROMs away.
Okay.
They're possessed.
99 in the books, folks. We'll see you for 100.
See you for 100.